was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad.
I was exposed very young in life to many of the legends in baseball history. I must admit, the stories my great-grandfather told me of legends long since gone were what inspired my desire to visit the best Mount Olympus had to offer. I was not an autograph hound, but I was always interested in the stories they had to tell. In the pictures you see here are some of these titans of the sport. In the interviews that follow are some more of the insight they have to offer. Specifically, my senior project was designed to get as close as possible to understanding the compelling aspects of this great game. It's different for most, but the theme is consistent. You will find that life lessons and friendships were at its foundation. As the best continued their careers, life lessons and friendships took on even greater meaning. These are not meant to be the only reasons, and the interviews that follow will also uncover other elements that drew players, managers, and fans to this game. The game is the fabric that keeps generations together, with heroes of different eras being compared and contrasted. It is our American pastime, and the grueling, drawn-out schedule will test one's resolve and forge character. Statistics over a lifetime are indicative of this. Pete Rose grew up in the shadow of Riverfront Stadium, loving his home team Reds. He ended up spending most of his career playing for them, and according to him, would run through hell in a gasoline suit to play this great game. Most fathers want their sons to play like Pete Rose, but not live a life like his. Kiko Garcia was similar, like most young boys in the 60s who grew up playing baseball. In the Walnut Orchards, across the street from where I live by the way, his dream was to play for his home team. Ernie Banks and his love for people is the perfect role model to come out of Wrigley's friendly combines. Respecting the game is the platform on which coaches Tony La Russa, Bob Milano, Bruce Bochy, Dave Righetti, and Duke Zielinski have built their professional careers. These interviews and more are captured in condensed form to follow. They are edited from long conversations that took this researcher behind the scenes. I thoroughly enjoyed this project, and I hope you enjoy what is to follow.
What makes it so compelling, I can only speak from my perspective. The lessons you learn from it are absolutely phenomenal. One, you're part of a team, but two, you can't hide in the game of baseball. When you're standing in the batter's box, you're there all alone. When a ball is hit to you, you're all alone. And it parallels life like no other. For the simple reason you have to be able to work with others. You've got to be able to work toward a goal with others. But then again, it's up to you. You're the one responsible for being able to get up and go after something or do something.
I think the fact that it goes on from February to October, and it's every day. It's like real life. You have ups and downs, and you see the same guy and the hero one day, and the next day makes an error. It's very real. The men, not machines, and you see the ups and downs. Just like you have good days, bad days. If you want to really be a champion, you gotta hang with them. It's tough. HOF, right? The other sports, they're not, football, 16 games, under 62, it's a lot more like life is. And you do it again the next year.
There's a lot of life lessons in it also.
Oh, absolutely.
Are there any particular
You gotta buy this book called One Last Strike. I wrote it.
We got 3 nights in August.
You get the next, well, that's better written, because that's Buzz. I wrote, after we won this one, there's a lot of leadership in there. Seriously, you gotta read it. One Last Strike.
Your platform, what you stood for, and your whole run.
Yeah, where I learned it.
Yeah, we tried it. We live in Walnut Creek. In fact, we got our dog from Arf.
Oh no.
Yeah. So baseball, we're very invested in its life lessons and what it teaches us. So thank you for helping us raise our kids.
See, I grew up in the era where there was no free agency. And that's when I started my career, before free agency happened. And so back in those days, we all, if you got into an organization, you were basically owned by that organization. You know, you couldn't ask to be traded. I mean, you could ask to be traded, but they wouldn't trade you if they didn't want to. And you couldn't play out your option like you can now after 6 years and go onto the free agent market. So back in those days, everybody wanted to be a San Francisco Giant or a Baltimore Oriole or a New York Yankee, because you were going to come up, be, you know, in the minor leagues and be young and then die, you know, basically grow old in that organization. And most people, most fans got to know everything about you. And so back in those days, there was just so much loyalty to the teams. And I think that's what made it very compelling, is that from the smallest kid, you know, boy or girl, they got to know every single player on the team. And, you know, and they just followed it. I mean, that's how I grew up, following, you know, the Giants. And then when the A's came to town, I was more like a teenager when they came. But, you know, to me, everything that made it compelling was that you grew up with it and you got to know them. So it was almost like, hey, this is my team, we're all family.
Right. What do you like most about being the baddest?
Winning. You score a lot of runs. Last night was a really good game. You know, I thought we had two very crafty pitchers out there, and it was a good pitching duel. And it was nice to come out on top. You know, it's a 0-0 game going into the eighth. To have us break the ice and score first, you know, in that type of game, you know, you don't want to get to the closer, because that's usually a tough guy to beat. So, you know, we didn't even have to use our closer because Bartolo Colon threw such a good game. Yeah, so, and I think he's about 52 years old, so for a 52-year-old guy, that's a pretty good job on pitching out the league.
It was just the hang of it. And the camaraderie of it, you know, the players, we were like family. Not like it is today. Of course, we didn't get paid either.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, I think there's such a variety to the game, meaning that everybody that's playing on defense has got to be ready for the ball. They got to be ready in a mental state that when it comes to me, what do I do with it? And I always used to tell them, it's not an apple, so don't eat it. You know, pass it on. Do something with it. So I think there's so many aspects to the game. I'll give you an example. I'd go to a baseball game at Oakland when Billy Martin was the manager. I asked him, could I buy tickets on the first base dugout side? And he said, why do you want first base? We'll get you right behind the A's dugout. I said, no, I don't want those. I want to watch Billy Martin coach in the dugout. And they said, what do you think he's going to do? I said, I don't know. And I want to follow what he's doing. So what Billy Martin did is very rarely did he get uptight with anybody in the dugout. He sat next to him when they had a problem. Some guy make an error or throw to the wrong base or whatever, then Martin would say something. Then when he lost it, when somebody didn't do anything correctly, like Reggie Jackson a few times, he got into it with Jackson face to face and they had to separate him. And I wasn't there for those games, but it was kind of interesting how he did things. And so I said, that's not a bad idea. See if I can handle that.
Are we being taped? Whoa, let's do an interview.
Okay.
Here, turn around here. One of the reasons why it's the most compelling is because it is a failure-oriented game. If you are really good, you fail 7 out of 10 times. So, that's the reason it's such a compelling game, and we come back to it, we watch it all the time, and it's our American pastime.
Thank you. That was so much.
Love people, learn from them, and they learn from you. You know, I think as we mature in life, we still remember all those good things. And that's what I did when I came by the home. I'll be silent since I was a kid, and I'll be
You're welcome. Yes. We'll meet you over there. Do you know what the photo booth is?
Thank you so much. And later on in my life, I have met kids. I met a kid when they were 10 years old, now they're 60, and I have asked them for a job. They remember, me just saying that. It's a marvelous game. You can learn a lot from playing baseball, and meet a lot of people, a lot of friends. And that's the big thing in Wrigley Field. That winning is important, but making friends is more and better. Winning is important, but making friends in life is worth more. It's like winning to me.
be there every day, reliable, and you don't feel like that they push themselves. We can coach that a little bit, but we look for guys that are willing to put effort and love the game enough to try to learn it. You know, it's not automatic, so as a coach you have a chance to teach them and mentor them. But after a while, when you read that book, there's a kid playing in center field around me, Colby Rasmus, is a great talent, and he never got it, so we traded him. And he may get it, he may be 27 before he gets it. But you got to teach, and at some point they get it. But we look for talent levels. Is there a sign that there's a lot of teams? The Giants won 2 World Series without having the best talent. They played hard and they executed. That's what wins. You can coach that. That's what we look for.
Just soak it up, enjoy, and just continuing to be, I think, a student of the game. You know, constantly learning, constantly getting better. It's going to be the time of your life. If I could go back, I would. It was do it all the greatest 4 years, yes. So enjoy it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, the thing about baseball or softball is it teaches you about your fears. And I felt that my daughters, especially my oldest daughter, she gravitated to, softball just because we would play catch. And it was pretty innocent, and it just she just picked it up. Plus, at the time, I believe I was still playing a little slow pitch softball, so she saw me out there playing, and so we would play catch, and I'd throw balls to her, let her hit, and she liked it, and so that just made it easy for her. But when she got involved in it, I wanted her to, I wanted her to learn the fundamentals, and I also wanted her to learn to respect the game. And that was something that I really stress on, is that. I mean, because I think the game does teach you about life, because of all the things that, it's a game of failure, and you have to learn to deal with it. And, I think that there's so many life lessons, to be found in all the failure that you find in softball or baseball.
What was your favorite memory?
My favorite memory was probably, well, a few of them. Opening day, my first time ever being on a major league field for an opening series. It was exciting. I struck out, but it was still exciting. And then the World Series. I had an opportunity to play in 3 World Series and undefeated. The teams I'm, won 1 Minnesota and 2 Yankees. So, a lot of good memories, but I think those are the ones that stand out.
It's full of adversity. I mean, it's a game of failure, and you're going to fail a lot in life, but you're going to have to turn around and play the next day. It's the same thing with life.
And one more question. What advice would you give to aspiring to be a Major League Baseball?
Expiring? Have fun with it. Just keep enjoying it. I mean, it's a game, and try to enjoy it as much as possible.
It's such a beautiful, strategic game that it takes 25 guys to get what you want to accomplish working together. It's like an orchestra, a symphony, It's just got to come together, and there's so much inside strategy that a lot of people don't realize. And everybody has to do their thing, or you're not going to have a winning season.
And one more question. What life lesson, what specific life lesson does it teach your kids?
What life lesson?
If there are.
Well, I think teamwork is the number 1 lesson. How you have to work together and pick up each other, and you have to deal with failure. Our game, if you're a hitter, you're going to fail at least 7 out of 10 times. You got to deal with that adversity, and that's what makes you a better player, by having that mental toughness to be able to deal with that.
The responsibility was a big one for me, and discipline. You did the wrong thing, the team didn't suffer, you suffered. That's how I believed. And that's what it was. It's just, and you did something about it, no matter whether it was Jones or Peterson that were the best player. You still did it. If they broke a rule, then they suffered. And the team was going to suffer. But that wasn't the whole team. It was just those two guys, or one guy, whoever it was.
So then what makes a successful team versus a poor team?
I think that you got to have tremendous amount of respect for your players and make sure they understand that. And they'll see that by the way you care about what they're doing, okay? Then the next thing you got to remember is the feedback that you get. Don't believe in all the feedback as a coach. And I told him that because sometimes the guy doing the talking is always trying to get the job of the guy in front of him. So he's trying to say something that's derogatory towards that kid. So you had to be very careful. And I tried to form some young man or two into team leaders. And if you had good team leaders within the players, your teams are always better, no matter what the coach did. You know, it's just you just go like this, and you can see him doing this because of 2 or 3 guys, or maybe 2 or 3 women that you've played with. All of a sudden, they're doing this, and you go, God, this team's going to be good.
I think what makes softball compelling is the competitiveness, but most importantly the cohesiveness and that team bond. Nothing greater than working hard with teammates to your left and to your right. And so it's about the relationships and then working hard towards that one common goal. Nothing is better or greater than that.
And is there anything I should particularly expect in the fall?
In the fall, a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat, maybe some tears, but that's the best time because you're working hard and it's all about that finish line. So it's what you do daily. And even in the summer, don't wait till fall. I'm sure you got like this workout before, prepare, get ready, make sure you do that workout. So make this first couple weeks a lot better as well. They won't be sore. But just enjoy it, make the most of it, and just know that less than 1% of someone years it's played at this level. So it's truly an honor and a blessing.
You know, it's a grueling schedule, and it wears you down, and you're very fortunate if you can play, 10 years, professionally,
right?
Because it just, wears your body down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's compelling to me. I don't look at baseball as the game. I look at it as a vehicle to teach life. It's easy. The funny thing about baseball is everyone feels like they know it. Because round ball, round bat, run around the bases, there's so many outs. And as many people you talk to, they'll give you your opinion. They know the rules. Baseball to me isn't about the rules. Baseball is the people aspect, the challenges of yourself, the challenges of when you're looking for a ball, are you looking too deep? Are you too fine focused in life? Or are you soft focused? There are so many different, I don't want to get into all the lessons, there's so many lessons to it that makes it compelling to me.
Well, I think through time you learn, to be more relaxed. But certain positions like pitchers, they're on the spot. They're constantly, being tested. Basically their lives are, what was my last pitch? Did I strike him out, or did he get a hit? And basically they have a really tough, go at it. So in regards to pitchers, I think they have to, be more, of being aggressive and whatever more is, to them. Everybody else, I think, we're more when we're young, and then as we age, we realize that over the course of time that statistically we're going to average something, and it's very hard to change that. No matter how hard you try, you're going to meet that level of play, and every now and then you're gonna go above it and exceed your expectations and everybody else's expectations. But over the course of a 162 game schedule, you're pretty much you find your level and you try to stay there.
As far as just favorite team, I had a lot of veteran players in New York. I had Derek Jeter, I had Paul O'Neill, a lot of really great players. My played with a guy by the name of Kirby Puckett in Minnesota, who was probably the most inspirational player I've ever played with. And I think the most caring, giving players I've ever played with were Jack Clark, the Giants, and Kirby Puckett.
My dad and I, got a chance to meet Vida Blue
Special.
2 weeks ago. Do you have any fun memories?
Yeah, I had a chance to meet Vida Blue when I first got to the big leagues with the Giants. In spring training, first of all, and then during the season, I ended up playing a year with them. Vida is just a special individual. The one thing that stood out to me with Vida when I played with him was, first of all, he was in excellent shape. He was probably in his mid-30s at the time. Worked very hard. As we all know, he was an explosive pitcher with the A's. But I think the most significant thing that stood out with him was that he had every day he came in the locker room, he had flowers in his locker room. And I thought that was the coolest thing. Every day he had flowers in his locker. Someone sent him flowers every day. So, yeah.
I first started in the game as a little boy, just like probably everybody else. But then as I grew older, I started finding other challenges, like my eyesight started to go. When my eyesight started to go, I started having to learn how to use something else other than my eyes. And it was the feel concept. And the feel concept, as I've gotten older, has to do with rhythm and a timing and tempo issue and the flow, where the whole movement is going now. Where is that?
No, he's a poor white guy.
I think the compelling part is it's just the daily competition between guys, and for how long can they sustain something. That's why they call it careers. But I think just watching it every day and watching the full consistency of the player and just competing against each other, I think that's the compelling part. I think that's why people watch.
What was your philosophy in motivating your players?
Well, I had very limited number of rules, and they're all based on development of responsibility, and make sure you own up to your responsibility and that you understand you're playing for the University of California and not me. You're representing Cal no matter where you are. And as soon as somebody finds out you're a baseball player and you're over there doing something stupid, and it might be drinking a beer and you're only 18 or 19, somebody's going to turn you in, and it's going to come back to haunt you, and your scholarship's going to be forfeited.
As a manager, what do you look for in a player?
Branch Rickey talked about the sense of adventure.
Yeah. I managed professionally, so there was a certain talent level they all had. The difference is, just the mental and physical toughness.
What specific life lessons does baseball teach, in your opinion?
Own up to your responsibilities. Be responsible for the outcome. Don't pass it on to anybody else. Discipline at 2 jobs, being a player and a student. And the other thing comes easy is just being you, a non-student, going to a party or going to play golf or whatever the kids did. Those are the biggest things that happen. The life lessons in baseball are just like life. 0 for 3 is a bad day, okay? Some days you have those 0 for 3s in the office and you could be out the front door. But baseball gave you a chance to come back. And that's what I told them, is learn how to control your emotions is a big part of life. Don't go off the deep end because the umpire took the bat idea. Well, it wasn't his fault. The first 2 you swung and missed them. And you took the 3rd one for him, so guess what? He said, it's time to go home. I'm hungry. It's strike 3, game's over. I said, you just can't be pointing fingers all the time at everybody. You got to make sure that we're going in the right direction. If you guys have a problem with me, send in the 2 captains, or 3, whatever we would have, and let's get it out on the open. Let's find out what's gone wrong.
So that leaves with one more question. I said I would ask you a variation of the question. After talking about baseball and getting into it for a little bit now, what is the most compelling thing about baseball in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think it's just something that you can sit down and enjoy with anybody, you know, any age, any age, you know, because there's so many things. Well, I mean, when I talk about baseball to other people and people say, yeah, that was really cool, and I go, well, but do you know really what they're thinking about, you know? And, or what, you know, if you do this, you do that. I mean, somebody was telling me the other day, you know, that we were talking about dirt and how, you know, our batter's box is all cruddy, you know, because there's big old holes in it. And they were saying, well, yeah, we need to put more clay in it and, you know, get it nice and thick so that, you know, so that if you go in there and you start digging in, you know, you have a nice batter's box. And I was telling them, well, when I was playing, every hitter had to go in and, you know, dig the dirt, but only like 1 or 2 times. And then the next hitter would come in, dig in the same hole, and just kind of break it up. Because if you sat there and dug the hole for yourself, you'd get hit for digging in. And pitchers back in those days would just hit you.
So it's kind of that rule that everyone knew you couldn't do so many times, or you were asking for it.
You were asking for it,
Yeah.
exactly. So and when I was telling that story to somebody, they were like, "Oh wow, I never thought of that." I go, "Well, yeah, there's so many little things," but you know, but I think the compelling part is that you can sit there and watch or listen to a game, and there's just so many little things that happen that I think probably just go unnoticed by all the millions of people.
Especially because it's such a talking game. Like the whole time you can just talk about it. And a lot of my friends, okay, they like the sport, but they don't understand. Even I don't understand it on the level as like, shoot, I can't think of the name. The ones who talk about the game while the game's going on.
You have answers.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
For some reason I couldn't think about it. I don't understand it on that level, but I think I understand enough to the point where I could explain the different things that might happen, what they're maybe even what they're thinking, like what to expect. And my friends will be like, "That's not even entertaining at all." Like, but you don't understand like what's going on here.
Yeah.
So it's really frustrating to have friends or like. It makes me not even want to be associated with them anymore because they don't understand it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Because you know what? The insight that you're going to get, just already, okay, at your age right now, and then what's going to happen to you when you go on to college and play there, and all the insight you're going to get there, okay, that's going to open up so many levels of opportunities in your own self, in your own brain, and how you look at things and how you look at life, that it'll change you in ways that will literally allow you to think that anything is possible.